Welcome to the XY Advisor Podcast, a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice. To get involved, go to xyadvisor.com or simply download the XY Advisor app. This series, Deeper Client Relationships at Scale, is brought to you by My Prosperity, the all-in-one client portal and app designed to enhance your practice efficiencies, promote your digital brand, and grow your revenue. You can book a demo directly from the website. Go to myprosperity.com.au. Welcome back to the XY Advisor Podcast. I'm Fraser Jack, and we are exploring all things around having deeper client relationships at scale. This is a series brought to you by My Prosperity, and today I am chatting with Conrad Francis. G'day, Conrad.
Hi, Fraser. Glad to be here, mate.
Thank you for catching up. Now, you tell us about yourself. You run a business in WA called Inspired Money.
Yeah, mate. Both Shane Mitchell and myself started Inspired Money back in 2011. Strange enough, from another failed financial planning business. It's unfortunately was with another business partner that didn't manage the business well enough, so we had to take ourselves out of that and started Inspired Money in 2011. And it was actually a really interesting time. Post GFC, the model was working for us. We had a growing business over there. It's just we were attached to a property development company, and obviously through the GFC over here, that wasn't really the best place to be attached to, and it didn't work for us. So we wound the previous business up. I extricated myself, and Shane joined me on that journey with another person, and we started Inspired Money in 2011. And from that point in time, it's been onwards and upwards. Yeah,
fantastic. And we'll get into that story in a second.
Sure.
Now that's but you started that business, and now you've grown. Now, what sort of size is it at the moment?
We've got about in excess of probably 2,500. I say clients, but obviously there's probably 300 fee-paying clients, and the rest are probably more insurance-focused clients.
Yep, fantastic. And how many staff?
We've got 3 overseas now, 2 in the Philippines, 1 in India, and we've got 13 in the office.
Wow, fantastic. So it's a fairly decent-sized business then.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that you think you don't know how big it's going to get until you actually start to grow your business and build scale into it.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's go back and explore your story. It's sort of it's an interesting story. I think it sort of started as a bank, a bank teller, and worked its way through to becoming a bank financial planner.
Bank teller. I mean, they usually call them bank Johnnies, mate. I was at the National Australia Bank from about 1999. Sorry, I lie. 1992 till 2002. Did 10 years at National Australia Bank. Midway through, I met a guy who introduced me to the values of financial planning as the banks were rolling it out through those days, and he did some work with my parents. I loved what he did. I had an affinity with stock broking and stock selection. Started to understand the wider value of financial planning, and went down that path within the National Australia Bank. Got to a point where I could see that and I say this really politely, I mean, the bank only had their product. So the reality is that's all you had to serve the clients with. And, when you're attending industry events and those types of things, you start to understand there's a wider product selection that probably serves clients better. And that got me working or looking at working outside of the bank. And that's, I think, when it was 2002 was when I left the National Australia Bank.
Yeah, fantastic. And so then you started a journey of running your own business, to being an entrepreneurial, and at the same time, but I have to mention this, at the same time you were doing a lot of coaching of basketball.
Yeah, I'm still a basketball coach. I coach in what's now called the NBL 1 West over here with the Joondalup Wolves, and it's a very successful team. I've coached a few West Australian sides also at national tournaments, and seen players go on to college careers and professional basketball careers, which is really, really good. And I think there's a very big synergy in coaching basketball and running a business and coaching clients in the financial sense. And I think I've been really lucky to find the real nexus of where all that stuff meets and how one serves the other. So it doesn't really feel like anything's taking time from anything else from my perspective, and everything's feeding my wider purpose, which is to see people achieve their best outcomes in every area of life, finance, finance, business, or in basketball and sport.
Yeah, that's exactly that's exactly the link I was going to try and make there. So you're absolutely right. Coaching people or coaching humans, whether it's sport or, taking control and being accountable for their own decisions and money and all those sorts of things, very similar. And we think about financial coaching as something that is a little bit different from advice, but essentially it's kind of the foundation for financial advice.
100% it is another. We've actually gone backwards to go forwards. We've actually got a couple of our advisors now are trained in money coaching, which is more behavioural, and then that becomes the platform we can build off. So if we identify clients getting stuck on their money journey, then we'll pull them back and pull them into the coaching journey. Or if we think they're not ready for financial planning advice just yet, we'll put them down the coaching journey first, just to give them a better foundation to receive the advice. I don't believe any advisor doesn't want to connect with their clients. It's just that sometimes it's not done. It's not best done with advice first. You've got to look at the foundation and where people can receive the advice. And so that's really been something that has been an eye-opener for us. It's still fairly new if you talk about money coaching or finance coaching in this country. But I've been doing it for years, just unknowingly. So we just put a structure around that.
Yeah, fantastic. And when you mentioned that you've trained some of your staff, what sort of training courses have you found out there?
Well, we did scour the internet and look for what seems to be the most popular, but also one that was synergistic with how I spoke about money and coaching and behaviours. And there's a course run out of the US by a lady. It's called. I can't remember what the actual. I think it's called a money coaching. I couldn't quote.
Is that the Money Coaching Institute?
I think it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so she puts people through a 6-week certified money coaching course, which obviously allows the attendee to go through their own journey and then apply that to some teaching processes. And we've now pull that information out. We've got a digital platform which one of our teams built by way of an app which sits on a person's phone. And so we've got the ability to do that as a one-to-many or obviously in some cases a one-to-one type scenario.
Fantastic. And that goes into the different archetypes.
Sure. Yeah. I think with everything is it's easier to understand when you create an archetype around something because it's very hard to understand when it's about you. So when you can extract it into an archetype, it's very easy to talk through.
Yeah, exactly, and sort of brings everybody into a realizing that they're not the only one in that situation.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to your journey because it's quite interesting. You, as you mentioned, you've been involved in businesses and then you found yourself on the wrong end of a business partner. Yep. Tell us about that process.
When I left the National Australia Bank, I went into partnership with an accounting practice, and that was fun. But then learnt that. Accountants think very differently to financial advisors, and that dissolved, and we moved on. And I took some time out of the industry from that. Well, I worked on my own for a bit. I felt like being on my own wasn't fantastic. Took some time out of the industry, and then came back into the industry with what I believe to be, a business that was going down the right path. They were largely a mortgage brokerage firm. They wanted financial planning to run the side of it, and then they were doing their own offshoot property development stuff, and it sounded great. But when the GFC hit, that just challenged everybody's reasons for why they're in business. And obviously, it wasn't about building the financial planning business. We were the cash cow that was supporting everything else, and the money was just being used to patch up other wounds, and it just wasn't fun. So we Shane Mitchell, myself, and another staff member extricated ourselves from that. And inspired me from that point in time with a clear focus of financial planning. We've now obviously added a mortgage broking arm to it. So we've back-ended it as opposed to leading with mortgages. In Australia, whether I like it or not, I'm not a very pro-property person, but, every Australian's dream is to have a property. So instead of trying to battle the conversation, we just jump in bed with them and at least get them out of the debt as fast as possible, as opposed to trying to say, don't do it.
Yeah, some very interesting learnings in that process, and then obviously sort of resetting and then working out exactly what you do want your business to look like. I think that's probably fairly valuable. And then obviously starting again. Tell me about starting again from scratch, starting a business from scratch. How did you go about that?
Well, Jack, this time around obviously was very different because I now believed I had the ability to grow a business and believed in myself. And I think that's the other part of this journey, right? It's understanding that, okay, what you can and can't do, what you do and don't want, and what you have to accept responsibility for on that journey. And I think from that point in time, being in business with the accounting practice, being in business with the property developer, I just passed on a lot of responsibility I didn't necessarily want to grow into and accept. And therefore, obviously, what happened were those two businesses dissolving. Now, going into Inspired Money, I knew I did some work on myself. I knew what was going on. I knew what I had to step into and what I had to accept and be responsible for. And my conversation with my other business partners at the time was exactly that. They all wanted to go into, somewhat of a equal shareholding. And I said, I can't do that. I've got to accept full responsibility. If you believe me, then back me in and I'll deliver. And I took it upon myself to do that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you're going in there saying, to build the best business, I need to build the best you first, and starting with you and doing some work on yourself.
Yeah.
You mentioned, taking responsibility a few times. I think I've seen some other clips with you talking about the word accountability. That's obviously fairly big in your personal values.
Accountability is massive. I mean, there's only two things I use. I mean, it's not my equation. I don't know where I came up with it or found it, but it's one I've used over the last, in excess of 10 years. Accountability plus empowerment equals high performance. And the truth is, they're the only two things I ever worry about. Do you believe in what you're trying to achieve, and are you doing the things you need to be doing? And I think some people, when they're not achieving what they want, I just break down one of those two parts of the equation, and we can figure it out pretty quickly, And usually people are spending time in the wrong areas, or they're doing the wrong things, or they actually don't believe that they deserve or are able to be where they want to be. And I've worked with plenty of businesses now, and I've worked with plenty of athletes that have achieved, getting to Olympic Games and the like. And it's really that simple. I mean, I don't think we need to complicate it anymore. And so when a client comes to you, whether it be financial planning, business coaching, or basketball coaching, for me, it's a case of, okay, well, what are we trying to achieve? What's the ultimate goal? And do we believe? What does that look like? And visualize that type of stuff. And a lot of people, it's a very emotional process because, they're dealing with some really, really deep-seated internal demons.
Yeah, fantastic. You're exactly right. I love that saying. I think, the key to that high performance, and especially when you're dealing with high performance athletes, is that accountability and empowerment. So, and it does resonate with the end client in the financial planning business, taking, responsibility and accountability for what they can earn and what they can spend and the things that they can control, and then, empowering them to live their best life. So I think it's a fantastic saying. Well done. Thank you for sharing that. So that probably leads us to the business that you've got now. Tell us about the business that's set up now. How does it work, and how does it help the clients it works with?
Well, Inspired Money is a goals-based advice business, and I think we talked about that earlier. I mean, goals-based advice, I believe most advisors have been giving goals-based advice for a while. It's just a term now that's been used, which I think helps focus the business and engage the client on in an area that we can all play in, not just technical, which I don't believe any client really likes unless they're property engineers. So when you can talk about a goal, it makes it a conversation that's owned by the client, driven by the client, and we're essentially holding their hand on their journey. And I think that's something like a client comes to talk to us about retirement. Well, I love to get them to visualize what retirement looks like, feels like, and means to them. And from that point in time, work backwards to where things need to happen, so the actions that need to happen to allow that vision to become reality. And that's exactly what we're talking about with relation to accountability and belief.
Fantastic. And do you work with any particular demographic of client? Or is it mostly?
I love mums and dads. I'm a pretty simple person. Mum and dad came from Myanmar back in 1972. We didn't have a lot. And so the goal, the goal for Inspired Money was to work with mums and dads and to keep advice affordable for all Australians. And it's a pretty big goal, but I mean, I was taught by my business coaches that it's got to be big enough to get you up in the morning and dial you in. And when I look at my family, where we are now versus where we were then, I'm really grateful for the advice that advisor gave my parents. And I'd love every client to get advice. I mean, I think people think they can't afford it, or people think they're not worthy of it. And that's the myth I want to break.
Yeah, fantastic. And so all sorts of demographics. Are you mostly in WA, your clients, or are you able to sort of service clients around the country?
Yeah, we are mostly in WA, but I do have a lot of clients all over the place. In Victoria, I've been going to Victoria for a long time, and a lot of my friends have relocated over there, so they've been, people that have brought me new clients. So WA, Victoria, some in Sydney, and a couple in Queensland now. I think it's just the way it works, I guess, like bees. When good clients move around, they end up finding other clients. So that's how it's worked for us.
Yeah, fantastic. And people do move around the country, and they stay clients. So has the business grown from organically as you're bringing clients on, or have you purchased books, or how have you grown the business over the time? So
between 2011 and probably 2018, we've done a lot of a focused organic growth scenario, and that got to a point where we then wanted to look at acquisition. We built the framework. Our tech platform was at a point where we needed to feed it more, just to get to the efficiency part of the game. And so we entered into a acquisition conversation with a bigger business that wanted to acquire us for our efficiencies. That was a 12-month painful conversation, which didn't eventuate because another institution got in the way. But shortly post that, probably 2 weeks post that, we were already in a conversation with another another business that was looking to sell because he was looking to move to New Zealand and start the next phase of his life. And that was going to feed the merged entity, but since that didn't go ahead, we ended up doing that acquisition first. And that was around 2019 we did that. And from that point on, we've done 6 or 7 others now. So we've acquired businesses from advisors that have left the industry. Obviously, there's been a lot of advisors that have reconsidered their futures based on education and compliance and post Royal Commission. And we could look at the glass half empty or the glass half full. I'm just an opportunist. I just like to drink what's ever in the glass. So the opportunity was there. We took it on board, and we probably bit off more than what we could chew, but we figured it out. And we didn't need to add a lot of staff. We had staff there, and the tech machine helped us scale pretty quickly.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of learnings along the way when it comes to acquiring businesses. The first time you do it, of course, you've never done it before, so you learn a heck of a lot. But by the time you get to the 6th or 7th, it becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah, it does. And I think again, it's you never know until you're in the midst of it all. As much as you can plan, and this was a story shared with me by my cousin a long time ago. You will never be prepared for the future version of yourself. There's only so much you can ever do, and then you've just got to take the leap of faith, and you've got to trust, and you've got to again accept responsibility. If you're going to grow, then accept responsibility. If you want the outcome, you've got to do the work.
Yeah, fantastic. And so is there anything you do differently when it comes to acquisitions or any hot tips you've got on what to look out for or don't do?
I think you've got to work with your team a bit more closely. Everybody wants, but nobody knows. And I think that's the big thing because ultimately it's easy for me to go out and make a deal happen. I love making deals happen. I've done it with different businesses at different stages. I think the thrill and the chase is phenomenal. But the practical side of it is making sure and ensuring that your team is on the same page. And I'm not saying my team weren't. I think given the amount of opportunity, I think that was the biggest issue. There's no issue with desire with my guys. They want guys and girls. They really want to help clients. It's just that there was a massively inundated with a lot of opportunities, and it took us a little while to settle down and go through them all and dot our I's and cross our T's and deliver.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's definitely a team sport then, acquiring a business.
Yeah. You've got to make sure everybody's engaged, ready, and on the same page. And I think in hindsight, the pandemic for us was probably what we needed because it's effectively a lock-in to just drill down. And we were focused, clients were available, and it became a good thing for us.
Yeah, fantastic. Now you mentioned a second ago the concept of feeding the tech machine, and we all get to this point where introducing technology and we're paying for it all, and we've got to, be at a certain size, I guess, to be able to get some efficiencies or some out of the money we're paying for the technology versus, the amount it's doing for us. Tell us about that and how you're using technology in your business.
Well, it's exactly right. Technology is a cost, obviously, so therefore it has to have some sort of value. It's either saving you money or making you money, or both if you're really, really lucky. And we were blessed when I started Inspired Money with Shane and with the other business partner who's no longer with Craig. I was not in the advice realm. I wasn't giving advice. I mean, although I had the ability to give advice, I chose to just guide the business. And Shane and Craig went about giving advice to clients. I went about directing the ship and figuring, okay, fine, where are the icebergs? What do we need to mitigate? And it was clearly evident to me back in 2011 that we needed to invest more money in tech, not use. It's very easy to go and use the tools on the table because it's just a crutch that we can use. But we didn't. We didn't use the X-Plans. We didn't use the coins or midwinters at the stage. We went and built our own CRM. We went and delivered our own tech piece with a few other tech businesses around the place that are no longer around. So again, trying to grow a business and trying to innovate technology with the front of curve businesses was hard work. And I mean, I guess like if Shane and Craig had their chances, they probably would have poked me in the eyes and wrapped me up and told me not to go out and talk to anybody, because it just seemed like every week there's a new bit of tech that we're trying to plug into the machine. The end result needed to be twofold, though. I mean, I think this is the issue. I mean, if we lent on current technology, we'd be looking at efficiencies just for us. I wanted to look at technological efficiencies that delivered outcomes or great outcomes to the client first, and through delivering outcomes to the client, then give us the ability to benefit from it. So I think that was our focus. Well, I know that was my focus of what's going to give the client the best experience possible. And then from that, have the best business with the efficiencies and the time and turnaround times and all that type of stuff. So that was my modus operandi, and I went about looking at all different things. So CRMs that engage with clients and gave clients a user interface, and digital experiences and easier ways to animate and explain, and in all of those different tools that you could use information, different ways to market to clients, and put things on their phone, because we realised people read their SMSs more than what they read their emails, and all of those types of little nuances. We think, okay, well, fine. Well, how can we do these types of things? And so you can get all this tech and all these pieces, but then the problem became, okay, well, fine. You got so many different tools. How do they talk to each other? So then it became about integration. So knowing the recipe you're trying to make, so getting the ingredients and then allowing it to sing together was the challenge. And so we've gone from building CRMs to reluctantly going down the path of going down the Salesforce path, which was something I was trying to keep away from, only because of the sheer cost of the business, of the experience. But there was, in my opinion, for what we were trying to achieve, there wasn't a better outcome for us. And we managed to negotiate the cost on it quite significantly anyway. So we went down the Salesforce path probably in 2017, after a few other failed attempts of building and working with other CRM businesses. And I say that because we wanted to go down the path of being a multi-diversified business. We wanted mortgage broking. We are now talking to an accounting practice. We want the ability to data aggregate. And so Salesforce was probably the most open, and most cost affordable and open to diverse businesnes. And so that's where we went, and that's where we built our system, or built our data aggregator from.
Well, one heck of a journey, and I would assume the journey's not over. It's going to be one of those things that evolves over time. Mate,
it's tiring. It's tiring, Fraser. It's the conversations. And I'm the type of guy that, whilst I love talking to people and technology allows us to do this type of stuff, I mean, I've had to find myself jumping on a plane to go and visit tech people, just to understand their story. Because that's the type of person I am. I need to know, particularly with startups, and we've used a lot of startups. What are you trying to deliver? And and the ones that are on the same journey as us, they're the ones we end up working with. Thankfully, it's worked more often than not.
Yeah, fantastic. You're absolutely right. And tech companies have to start somewhere, so there always has to be startups. But you do have to understand what they're doing and what they want to do and what they want to achieve. Now, you've mentioned Salesforce and the integration word. How has that gone with you, and what have you managed to integrate?
So we've pretty much integrated. So our front end experience obviously is with My Prosperity. That's our user interface. And when I saw My Prosperity in probably 2014, 2015, I thought it was nirvana. That's exactly the tool that I want to see on a client's phone. And at that stage, they didn't have the app, but that's what we wanted, and that's where their vision was. And it gave the client, a central source for their financial information. And we've been working with them ever since to try and get other parts of the client's financial journey integrated onto their platform. So we're still work in progress, and I think their recent announcement about working with Midwinter, again, it's fantastic for us. Midwinter is another tool we have used, so we've plugged that into Salesforce. Not that we produce a lot of documents out of Midwinter; it's probably been used largely for our own calculation purposes. We're under, a licensee under AMP, so we're very strict and rigid. So we've done all this working underneath this license, mind you, which is not usual. And so we don't use Midwinter at this point in time for the documents. But in saying that, we've been able to use another startup company called Nod that have worked with us to produce charter-like documents, which is phenomenal. And the way they've grown and innovated over the years and iterated themselves, they're going through some exciting times at the moment. So we use Nod largely for the document side of things. What do we also use? Digital signatures. We went down the path of Sign Now. Now, at that point in time when we went down digital signing, yes, Adobe was there. Yes, who were the other ones? There was a few other ones around the place. DocuSign and all those were there. Mate, I'll be honest with you, it was a cost thing. For us, Sign Now was more cost effective, and to be honest with you, the user experience was actually quite cool. So we went down that path. Will we stay there? We're not sure. It's still where we are at the moment. I know some of the documents that do come from Charter are all on DocuSign, and we may be forced to go down that different path just because it's more widely accepted. But that's, it's simple as unplug, plug in. It's not a holistic change for us anymore. Things like Twilio, which allows us to SMS clients from Salesforce, and we SMS clients everything through reminders about reviews and meetings. I've ordered pizza off Domino, and I love using the app on the computer because it tells you where the whole process is. And you find yourself watching this bloke deliver your pizza to you. And I said to my guy, I said, that's what I want. I want a client to understand where they are in the financial planning process, particularly when they start with us, because the process can be so onerous. And it honestly challenges me to see how long it takes from start to onboarding a client in some instances that, we just need to be giving the clients information. And so again, with a business that's built on scale, you can't necessarily pick up the phone every time and let a client know their file's progressed. But you can send them an email, you can send them an SMS, you can tell them you're thinking about them, you can invite them to give you a call. And so when a client's file goes through the process, that's what we do. Can we do it better? 100%. But, at this point in time, it's not a Domino's experience, but it's an experience better than where we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, probably 3 years ago.
That's fantastic. I love the way you've taken that concept, and you're absolutely right. It's about being transparent and showing clients where they're up to, and letting them know, that they are transforming in a way, and they get a pizza at the end of it, which is great.
Hopefully, it's a bit better than a pizza, but it's, I don't know, mate. Like I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with businesses that don't use technology. My issue is that do they realise that life could be a lot easier? And I think that's the issue, but you've got to get uncomfortable. You got to grow, right? So you've got to become uncomfortable to become comfortable. And using tech yourself is where you have to be. And if you're not prepared to use tech, then you can't get your clients using tech. Then my question is, and our goal was simple, is to keep advice affordable. So we can't keep advice affordable if it's an onerous manual process. So invest in technology, but then to cover the cost, you've got to scale your business. Otherwise, it just becomes a very expensive tech stack, which again is fine, but your client will pay for it.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, isn't it, between having all the technology and having enough clients going through it. So let me just go back to the concept of deeper client relationships at scale, and being able to say, how do we have relationships? Talk to me about the client relationships and using technology in that way where you've got the client to develop the relationship, even just with the business, more so than just one or two people in the business.
I guess I mean, our journey with a client starts digitally. And, we onboard them through the process. So you'll go to our website and you'll see there's a lot of tech introduced even on our website, but they'll use MyProsperity. We use MyProsperity onboard. So they're put into that space straight away. And then our first meeting, ideally, if the client fills in as much information as possible, which they do these days, which, if you take me back a few years, I'd say clients don't want to fill in digital fact finds. The truth is they're more accepting to digital these days than they are paper in most instances. And particularly if an advisor is prepared to show them how to use it. But if a client comes and they've gone through the onboarding process the way they should, then we're sitting there playing with the advice delivered in their space, i.e. what they see on their end. We generally put a retirement goal in the tool straight away, and then we work backwards from there as to, okay, we'll find what are the advice gaps that exist because the retirement goal now is actualized. Now, most people will tell you, oh, yeah, I want to retire at the age of 65 or 67 or whatever the date is. And when they don't give you a date, because some don't, we can make some assumptions with them and prior to them coming in and use the assumptive data that we've got. And then we show a client, okay, we'll find using the assumptions or using the information you've given us, we're on track or not on track. But if I can use a case example that I worked with a client the other day, it was an accountant friend of mine actually, and she's got 19 years to retirement, and it showed that at 67, if that's when she chose to retire, she'd be fine. The question then was, okay, but that's 19 years away. I said, how certain are you that you're going to earn 100K plus, over the next 19 years? So that showed us some gaps, predominantly insurance gaps, because that was the biggest risk, other than education gaps to stay relevant and employable. And then she said, well, what if I wanted to retire 5 or 10 years earlier, Conrad? I said, okay, well, fine. We moved that line in the tool, and it showed that we had about a 500K capital gap. And they said, now we've got an investment gap, and then we can talk about that. And that was just all using that tool, that by being brave enough to put a stake in the sand, we then were able to open up the areas of advice and then ask them what they valued more, and went through that position.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, just with regards to the client embracing the technology that you're using, I guess I kind of have this feeling that they do what we teach them to do, right? Like if we teach them to do it on paper in the beginning, then they get used to paper, and then they turn around and go, oh, you've changed something. But from what you're saying at the beginning of the process, every new client that comes in gets the technology experience. Yep. Have you had any problems with that retraining of a client that's been around a long time that used to do stuff on paper and now?
Sure.
Doesn't?
I mean, it's not a problem. It's just a challenge, and I think that's the opportunity that we face with clients. And we've got different price points for clients, and clients that want to engage with a highly tactile nature on paper. I mean, unfortunately, the cost will go up, and we can explain that to them very, very well, and they'll make a known choice. Does that happen all the time? No. So that's okay for us. But it's just a challenge to be able to work with a client. We don't, to make the system work, we don't need a lot of their time. We don't need a lot of their interaction on the tool. We just need to get them on the tool and let them know that's what we'll be using. Because once it's digital, we can slice and dice the data whichever way we can, which then saves a lot of time. So we can pull information out of MyProsperity because we've integrated that with Salesforce. I think we're the only ones that have done that. And so we can use that information. It can go into our fact finds. It can go into our statements of advice. It can go into our communications. It then also allows us to, which is what we're spending a lot of time on at the moment, look at opportunities to market to clients from the data we're grabbing, which is, what I say to people now, what I call my business is it's a diagnostic financial planning business. We diagnose before we advise. Where are the cash flow problems? Where are the capital problems? Where are the behavioural issues that we can see based on the information we have? And then let's give the right advice to solve the right problem, as opposed to one Band-Aid fixes everything.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm imagining this is very handy when we're talking about bringing, when you're talking about acquiring businesses and then bringing that data in and then being able to then slice and dice.
Yeah, it's extremely valuable, and it's really valuable to re-engage with the client. So we'll find this is what your data's telling us. This is the advice you've received in the past, and it's taking you on the journey to now. But to get you from here to here, we're going to need to make a slight change now, or it's going to need a bigger change later. And we can show that to them pretty quickly.
Yeah. Now I'm imagining with the client experience that happens as they come over to your business from the business that you've acquired. From the client experience point of view, they're certainly thinking that's a better for them, or that, something that's all new and exciting rather than just new and different.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'd like to think it's new, exciting. I mean, it's very hard because you don't really want to make their previous experience null and void. So you want to try and build wherever you can, because everybody's doing the best they can, right? The previous advisor was doing the best that they could, and they're doing the best they could with the information they got from the client at that point in time. If we're getting better quality information, which is what we're getting, then we can get a better quality experience. And so, yes, it's almost like for like with the outcome, but it's not like for like with the input. And so we just create better foundations and better reasons as to why we do what we do.
I think this is a really important point that we should probably hover on a little bit. The better quality information gives a better quality experience. And I think that fits very well with what the concept we're talking about, having deeper client relationships at scale. And that information, I guess, is just going to become better and better over time.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, you build a house on a foundation. If the information you give is the foundation of your advice, then better quality information allows you to build a multi-story house easier without having to re-engineer the foundation. So with these client books that we've acquired, we're having to go back and re-engineer the foundation so that we can put the second, third, fourth story on the building. And clients understand that analogy really, really easily. So yeah, that's the game we're playing.
Fantastic. It's incredible. So, all right, that's very good. So that's what you're doing now. Tell us about what you're working on then in the future. How are you evolving this?
Well, the next stage for us is using the data better for things like marketing purposes and client journeys. So we're working on that. Strangely enough, I would like to think a lot of this stuff's been invented, and I think in some space it has been. But yeah, we're working with My Prosperity and their client personas to articulate client journeys within our database. So archetype type conversations in parts. But yeah, I mean, it's a leading conversation more than anything else. If you identify with one of the personas, then we're going to put them on that journey, which then allows them to have different conversations, receive different information, because that's what's happening at the moment. Everything's highly personalised. It's not a one cap fits all, and I think that's what most businesses have done in the past because they haven't had the ability to differentiate. We do now, and we should. And again, same thing with basketball. I mean, we've got a team of 20 people in the squad. Coaching basketball teams this year is not a dictatorship anymore. It's not a yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. It's what does little Johnny need? What does Harry need? What does Paul need? And how do we get that information to them? And is it through video? Is it through written? Is it through showing? How do they need to receive the information so that it lands for them in the most efficient manner possible? So being able to use the data to then identify the client, take them on their own client journey is what we're working on at the moment.
Fantastic. I love that deeper understanding equals deeper relationships point. So, Conrad, thanks very much for catching up with us today. Really appreciate your time. If somebody wants to continue the conversation, what would be the best way for them to find you?
Fraser, I mean, they can find me on social. I'm in LinkedIn, Conrad Francis, Facebook, Instagram. I'm everywhere. I mean, that's the other part is meet the clients where the clients are at. So I'm on social space. Or go to the Inspired Money website, www.inspiredmoney.com.au, and you can click on a link and book some time with me there as well.
Fantastic. Really appreciate your time, Conrad. Thank you for sharing all these great wisdoms.
No worries. Thanks, Fraser. Appreciate the time, buddy.